Welcome to The Artistic Spot, a podcast about art, talent, and entrepreneurship, where you are also the artist. And now, your host, Jose Rodriguez Marmol.
And this is how we welcome you to Artistic Spot, a podcast about art, talent, and entrepreneurship, where you are also the artist. In Artistic Spot, we're actors and actresses of our own movies, singers of our own musicals, and writers of our own books. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Arantxa Loizaga joining us live from Newsport, Univision Studios in Doral, Florida. And this is how we welcome Arantxa to Artistic Spot. I'm giving you a round of applause, Arantxa. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for joining us here in Artistic Spot and for making us part of this amazing structure at Newsport in Univision. Thank you. Muchísimas gracias.
Es un placer. Al contrario, thank you so much for having me here, and I really hope that you enjoy the tour of this beautiful place where we make magic and news, information flowing.
It was wonderful. Thank you very much for making us part of that impressive tour that you guys can look up to, looking at our Instagram, RJJ Design, and listen to us on Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.
Wonderful.
Yes. So this is wonderful. Thank you very much, Arantxa, for joining us once again. And now to talk to our audience a little bit of who Arantxa Loizaga is.
That's a very interesting question. I think it all started back in November 25th of 1983 when I was born in Mexico. I'm the oldest of three sisters, three girls in our house. And I always knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell stories. So I think I learned how to speak when I was about a year and 10 months old. And I would go and start making up stories about things. I used to have a little Fisher-Price tape recorder with a microphone, and I used to do my own radio show. I used to edit my own magazines, so I would do cutouts of other magazines and newspapers. And like I said, I always knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell stories, and of course, when you grow older, you understand the power of information. So that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to empower my community.
And what about your story? Before we go in depth of your professional career, your journey in the United States after being born in Mexico, yes, and being an Hispanic here, speaking English and Spanish, and being a news anchor during the weekends.
Yes, well, it started, I think, in July. This coming June, July, it's going to be 15 years ago when my mother said, Ada, we're going to San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
And I said, Mom, I'm going to miss you a lot. I'll go visit. And she said, no, you're coming with me. My mother was born in Texas and raised in Mexico City. And so she never spoke to us in English or anything. We try to go to bilingual schools where we learn English maybe an hour a day, but I don't think that was enough, of course. And so when my mom decides to come to the U.S. is because she wanted to give us, a better opportunity in life. And of course, since she was a citizen, it was going to be a lot easier for us to be able to get the residency and later on the citizenship. The immigration laws are very funny because my other sister, who was born in 85, and myself, we couldn't get the citizenship through my mom, so we had to get the residency and then, become citizens. My youngest sister, she was born in 1990. And so because the law changed,
yes,
and after 85, then she was able to get automatic citizenship. So isn't that funny? We come same mother, same father, same upbringing, same circumstances, but some children can get the citizenship,
yes,
immediately, and the others have to go through the whole process. But anyway, so my mom said, we're going to San Antonio. And back then, I was 20 years old. I was already working on TV. I started when I was 18, hosting a TV show for kids. It was a live show, Monday through Friday, 2 hours. And it was a lot of fun. I was going to my favorite university, La Iberoamericana in Mexico. And I thought that I had the blueprint for my future, right? Mm-hmm. I was going to school, working on my undergrad. I had a TV show and I was doing what I wanted. And so I said, I have everything, right? Why would I give up everything I have and start all over again from scratch?
That's true.
But then I talked to my dad, and of course my parents are divorced. They got divorced when I was about 13. Mm-hmm. And so I spoke to my dad and I said, Dad, I don't want to go. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I don't speak the language. I don't know the culture. I don't know anybody there. It's just going to be mom, my sisters, and myself. You know, I'll probably have to start all over again from scratch at school. You know, I have to go and knock on doors and ask for an opportunity to work on TV. You know, back then I just knew that I wanted to tell stories where I didn't know, but I knew what I wanted to do. And so wise words from my dad. Ara, go. You know, just go and explore new horizons. And if you don't like it, you can always come back. But you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to feel uncomfortable to experience growth, you know, emotionally, professionally, intellectually. And so, thank God, I listened to my dad. And I said, okay, let's do this. So I gave myself the opportunity, you know, to explore new horizons. And 15 years later, here I am. So...
That's wonderful. You mentioned something about knocking doors and that sometimes when you don't get what you're expecting, it helps you to grow. So tell us about a time in your life when you have had that opportunity to say, this is not what I wanted, but still it was a best or one of the best experiences for me, and it has led me through who I am today. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I guess the first experience that I had was knowing that I was going to have to start all over again going to school. You know, when I tried to transfer, you know, my year and a half worth of curriculum to a university here in the States, they said, I know, we cannot do this. You'll have to start all over again. So I remember being in a community college crying, right? Because I could afford going to a community college, getting an associate's degree. They told me if you take some other classes, then you get an associate's degree in new media communication, which is what I wanted. And then you can transfer to another university. So understanding the process, I remember sitting down, enrolling for classes and crying, you know, saying, what am I doing? Why is this so complicated? All I want to do is go to school and graduate, you know? So it was a learning experience, but it was a fascinating experience. And I knew that I was going to do whatever it took to be able to graduate, because I know the importance of education as well. So, you know, crying there with the guy, I said, I can't believe, you know, I have a year and a half worth of credits, you know, 7 classes per semester in Mexico City, and you're telling me that nothing will count? And they said, well, I mean, we're sorry, you know, I mean, you have to take college algebra. And I said, but I took that in high school. No, this is college algebra, you know, and of course, you know, physics and economics and, you know, sciences with laboratory hours. It was just very complicated. But once I was there, you know, at the community college, I said, if this is what I need to get done, then I'll do it. I remember my first accounting class. You know, my professor walked in with cowboy boots, because remember, it's San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, right? Big belt buckle and a hat. And he said, how are y'all? Oh, God. And I looked around and said, what did he say? How are y'all? And I said, what is how are y'all? How are you all in Texas? And I said, oh, I get it. Okay, perfect. And, you know, he started, we're going to learn about equity and liability. I had my dictionary with me. I was researching what is equity in Spanish, what is liability. But at the end, you know, to just put yourself, you know, devoted into your goal, which is finish school, graduate, and keep on going forward. Knocking doors, for instance. Yep. You know, I knew that I wanted, once I got my paperwork, my residency, my working permit, I said, okay, there are 2, you know, TV stations here in the United States. One is the other one, and the other one is this one, Univision, right? And so I went and knocked on Univision first, and they said, we're not looking to hire anybody. And I told them, well, I used to be a TV host, right? Because that's what I was. I was a host. And I would like to have an opportunity if possible. And they said, we're not looking for anybody, but thank you. We'll keep you in mind. Then I went to the other station. I said, hey, you know, if you need anybody, I used to TV, you know, host or anchor, you know, in Mexico. And they said, we'll take it into consideration. Thank you. So, you know, a month will go by, you know, another 15 days, and I would always make that phone call, hey, I'm here, because people tend to forget that you're there.
That's true.
And so finally, they told me from the other station that they were looking for a host for a TV show. So I did it for 7 weeks, and then they canceled the show because there was no budget. And they said, thank you for participating, you know, have a nice life. And then they called me 3 months later, and they said, we need somebody to work in production. I had never done that before in my life, but I told them, if you teach me, I will learn. So I learned how to do cameras, how to edit, how to change light bulbs, you know, in the studio lights, how to edit audio and video, everything, how to write for news, because I was also, I had very strong Spanish skills. And I said, do you need help? And they said, yeah, sure. So pretty much in a nutshell.
And what do you remember was the most difficult part of all that process, knocking doors? Why did you decide to go and leave Texas to come to Miami? It's a different mindset, of course. And we're talking about Univision, which is the most important Hispanic TV network in the United States.
Yes.
So it's a big thing working here and being able to tell stories to those people listening at home, Hispanic people who make very big differences in this country. So what was the hardest part for you as a person when you decided to knock on the door? I know you told me that they told you that they were not looking to hire. Then you had the opportunity to work in the production team. But what was the hardest thing for you when you finally said, I'm in? Or why did you decide to come to Miami, maybe not Los Angeles, or maybe not New York?
Okay, so when I worked in the other station for a couple of years, then I got a phone call from a local station, from the Univision station in San Antonio, Texas. And they said, we're looking for a sports anchor. And why don't you come, and read the prompter? And I said, well, I've never done sports, and that's not my forte, but sure. So I went there, and then they liked my work, I guess, in front of the camera. And then I read some news, in the prompter. And then the general manager called me and said, I saw you. I think you are talented. You have potential, right? And we're looking for a reporter. And I said, sure, So I started 12 years ago, almost in July, with Univision. Univision is my cuna, my birthplace of, for my journalistic career. And so I was given the opportunity to start as a reporter. So I was a weekend reporter and doing nights. And then shortly after, about 4 months later, they gave me the chance to substitute, backup anchor for the weekend. And then throughout the week when everybody went on vacation. And then back in 2011, I became the news anchor for the local 10 p.m. newscast in San Antonio, Monday through Friday. And also, I was reporting, but in 2012, when the morning anchor, the news morning anchor for the show Despierta América, Sacha Preto, who happens to be a beautiful friend, very grateful that I have her in my life, a beautiful person, beautiful human being, and also very talented journalist. She was getting engaged, right? So they were looking for local talent to be able to substitute for her in the morning show. And they asked, for demos from all of the local stations that Univision has in the country.
Yes.
And I had the fortune to be selected. So that was the first time that I came here to network, to do that backup anchoring for a week. And then they invited me again, another time, and then another time. And finally, when the weekend news anchor left, Jorge Ramos' sister, Lourdes Ramos, right? The husband got a job, I understand, in Spain, and so she had her family, and she thought her place was with her husband, so she moved. That's when they called me, and they said, hey, we're looking for an anchor, but they didn't say where, until I got here, and I spoke to my big boss, right, Daniel Coronel, and then he said, there's an opportunity, and we would like to offer it to you if you want to, but you'll have to move to Miami. So I was coming from a local TV station, to network news for the weekends. And that's when, I start working every weekend. And of course, I also substitute when my coworkers are out on assignment, throughout the week. And Despierta América as well, and Edición Digital too, And I think it's a lot of fun because every format has a different feel. So Edición Digital, it's a lot more millennial, a fast pace. You can actually contar la noticia, you can talk about it without being so rigid, right?
Yes.
The other formats that we have are fantastic as well, but they're more old school formats, And in Despierta América, it's a fun show. It's in the morning. You have to wake up at 3:30 in the morning, to be here at 4:30 and start looking at your rundowns and the information, and then go, do your makeup and start doing briefs and stuff. But it's also, a lot of fun. So it's been a fun ride.
What was going to your mind that time when they told you were selected, you have to move in Miami? What did you have in that luggage, in that suitcase? Because sometimes when we, especially us that we come to this country as immigrants, we decide and we go to another country to pursue our dreams and to work hard in order to